Ooh, those rising nerves, the bubbling butterflies before a big, important entrance. For some, it can help them to focus and play well. But for others, it drives them deep into their shadows, debilitating them, even causing the dreaded hesitation or Valsalva maneuver. What if, though, there was a way to heal that? What if there was a way to find our calm, find our beauty? If that calls to you, listen on. This is a very, very special episode of the Holistic Horn podcast. Special for me because I'm going to share with you one of my most painful, vulnerable, and challenging experiences of my entire career. And special for you, hopefully, because I'm going to process that experience using a technique called emotional freedom technique. Our guide for this is Jenny Clift. She's an internationally renowned emotional freedom technique practitioner who exclusively serves musicians. And it's a really, really special approach. You're going to want to watch this episode on video so that you can follow along and tap along with different points. And if you do so, I think you're going to be really in for a treat and some real liberation of your life force. Perhaps you'll fly higher than ever before, like the phoenix, like the firebird. I'm Mars Gelfo. I'm the founder and educational director at High Range Magic, an online transformational school for French horn players. And this is the Holistic Horn podcast. I invite you to take a nice deep breath with me, savor this music, and prepare yourself for a very special episode. And welcome to the Holistic Horn podcast, Jenny Clift. I'm so honored to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here, Mars.
I don't remember quite how I found you, but I've
No
been
idea.
doing EFT tapping for years. I found it very effective for creating resolutions. And in fact, I remember I was having a conflict with a girlfriend some time ago. And my housemate is an EFT tapping coach.
Love that.
And my girlfriend at the time, she wasn't texting me. You know, she was a little being on the cold side, silent
Bit of
treatment.
ghosting going on.
Yeah. And I was, so my housemate was just tapping with me, supporting doing the EFT. And we finished a round of release and my phone went ding.
Love it.
And she'd texted me.
Yeah, yeah.
I love these moments when something moves, some little bit of life force, it's stagnant and it moves.
Energy.
And reality changes around you. I'm sure you've seen that many, many times.
Yes. And I have to say so many times still when it happens, it's a kind of, whoa, did that really happen? You know, it's hard to believe, but it happens too many times to be coincidence. And I believe in energy and shifting. And I say to my clients very often, you don't have to do everything at a physical level always. You know, you can do things at an energetic level. I mean, I believe in both. I think we have to be taking action as well. But to be able to have this as an extra facet is really, really helpful and fun too.
Oh, yes, so fun.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm going to have you get into what EFT is, why you're so passionate about it, why you've devoted your career to it. But I'm curious if, real quick, part of your career, if you have an example in your life of something where you've seen that shift happen, maybe for a musician.
Yeah. I was just literally have come off a call with I have a guy, he's an opera singer, baritone, who I work with, and I've been working with for a while. And we always joke that, the kind of magic of this, that when he when we stopped tapping, pretty much it's not happening so much now because it's not so necessary. But at a time, his agent would always ring right after our sessions. And, we'd be sort of tapping on this, that, and the other. And then his agent would call with something. And, and I remember I actually wrote a Facebook post about, the magic sort of thing happening. So that was definitely a great example of it. And we laugh about that as well.
Cool. So what is
Yeah.
this EFT thing that
Okay.
we're going to talk about?
Yes. Well, basically, it's an energy healing modality, I call it. And it's a nice way to think of it is acupuncture without the needles, because we're going to be using similar points. In basic EFT, we use 9 points. But instead of stimulating those energy points with needles, we're stimulating them by tapping, which is why it's so often called tapping as well. And they've done more than 100 scientific studies to prove that it actually is doing something. When it started, which was kind of back in the 1990s, this guy called Gary Craig, it was very anecdotal, and it was very much, wow, you must try this thing. It's amazing. I feel so much better after it. And then they started doing a lot of studies just to prove that, yes, it's bringing down cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It's rewiring the brain. They, done before and after kind of brain imagery to show that it's kind of settling the fight or flight response and rewiring the brain. So using these points, but at the same time, what we're doing is talking. So it's kind of acupuncture without the needles and talk therapy with an energetic component. So that's what I love. It's the mind, body, energy thing. And I realized when I started working very much with musicians, and as a musician myself, I'm a violinist, I was first partaking, for myself, I realized that this is ideal for musicians because we are all about mind, body, energy, spirit, every day of our lives, and I very quickly realized I'd been working with what I call civilians, so non-musicians first. I had a lot of healing to do around my own musical career. And when I started working with musicians, with violinists like me, but opera singers and brass players as well, all kinds of musicians, of course, this is going to be easy for them because they're so used to feeling their body and knowing what's going on, and their emotions and their thoughts are so clear. And also they are good at concentrating. So, it's a really perfect storm in a way for this sector, and so helpful and so effective.
Yeah. And we've got a really, really special thing planned for this podcast of tapping on an issue that many, many brass players face, one that's been a demon in my own life for decades, which is hesitant attacks. So we're not going to get into that quite yet, but I'm so excited, and I want people, if they're listening, know you're going to get a taste of this technique that you can do right at home and really assess its effectiveness for you.
And one thing, hearing you say that, Mars, it's so funny because I remember once when I was working with my EFT coach, he's very big in EFT, a guy called Brad Yates, and I worked with him for about 5 years. And I remember once saying to him, but, how can you work with all these different people? He was working with a hedge fund manager. And I was saying, I could never do that. I wouldn't know what to say. And he said, you don't have to know what to say. And this is the great thing about EFT. When I work with someone one-to-one or in a group, I use your words. So you're going to be the one telling me what to say, basically. And then that's what's so perfect about it. There is a bit of intuition coming in. I can, and certainly as a musician myself, there's this idea of maybe that's what they're going to be thinking. It's so wonderful because it can be so, hesitant attacks. Really? What the hell is that? I have no idea, but I'll soon find out.
So what was your magic moment?
This is the one that comes to mind. There have been so many. My story is that I studied violin. I was at music college in London and got my diploma and, training to become a performer. But my violin teacher, he was this Hungarian, very fierce, very strict, and we were just such a bad fit for each other. I mean, and so it was 3.5 years of hell probably for him as well. Kind of hope it was, but no. Anyway, it was hell for me. And I studied with him, and then I gave up the violin for 8 years. That's the important thing, because I was just so convinced I was not good enough. I was I couldn't do this. And I had so much, trauma, if you like, around that, and I'm not good enough. So we tapped on this, and not to make fun of him, but it was to lessen the charge around it and everything. And just right away, it was kind of, you know what? I can let that go now. It took a bit of time, but I don't have to feel that same pain every time I think about him. I'm absolutely done much more work on it. But that kind of magic moment of realizing I can take a step back from it. It happened. It's not that I've forgotten, but I don't have to be emotionally tied to that anymore. And it doesn't need to be affecting me going forward.
Absolutely. And so what did that catalyze for you as far as your continuation with your healing journey?
Was, all what I focused on was my musical career. So I was at that point, I was back with the violin, but I was doing a lot of teaching. And although I love teaching, I wanted to perform more. So I made 2 CDs I had a violin and guitar duo. I got a contract with an orchestra. All kinds of things started happening. And it was kind of, my coach would say to me, do you have a website? And I'd go, me? A website? You must be kidding. And then, even though I don't have a website, and I might have and then I would go out and do a website. So it was kind of enabling, or that's maybe the wrong word, but, allowing myself to actually do these things, which I was so convinced were not possible for me. And so much happened.
Yeah. So you just said something, even though I don't have a website, which some of our audience may not get what you're referring to. So can you explain that a little bit?
Of course. So with the tapping, it's fairly free. We're using words that have come up maybe in conversation or something. But we have at the beginning of the tapping protocol, if you like, a phrase which we call the setup phrase. And we start and I'll explain the points that we're going to be using. The very first point we normally use is what we call the karate chop point, or the side of the hand point. So we tap with one hand on the other, or the fingers on the other hand. Some people tap like this. I usually curl my fingers. It doesn't matter. I'm stimulating the points. Exactly. And it doesn't matter if you use this hand or that hand. Sometimes you'll even see people doing this. They tend to be EFT people themselves, but so you're in fact stimulating both. And we use a phrase which is even though. And what I love about this is that we take the negative thing that is going on. All right. So maybe you're nervous, anxious about an upcoming audition. Okay. Possible scenario.
Sounds possible. I've heard that happen sometimes.
Yeah, it sometimes does. So we have a talk, maybe even rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, I'm feeling right now, because it's in 2 weeks' time, and geez, all those orchestral excerpts are, it's at an 8. Okay, so then we actually, instead of trying to go positive and say, you can do this, yay, you've got this and everything, which, it's nice to hear, but it doesn't actually help very much.
Right, because it invalidates the phenomenon that's actually happening.
Exactly. All the fears, the physical feelings that come up. So we start with the negative. We start by, I call it acknowledging and honoring the negative. So we would say something like, even though I am so, and here's where I usually swear, but I'm not going to today, I'm so anxious about, or I'm so nervous about this audition. And then we put it together with a positive phrase. So instantly what we're doing, the tapping is doing one thing, it's bringing down that cortisol, as I said, but also we're going to put it with something like, I accept that I feel that way just now. Or I choose to know I'm safe right now. Or I love and accept myself completely. And so that juxtaposition, if you like, of the negative, what is really going on, and then this positive, right now, I'm okay, I'm safe. It starts to act on our nervous system in such a profound way. And when you start to do it many times, I find now the moment I say, even though, it's like my system goes, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it becomes a very quick response. And so we have all these feelings. We have the, jitters. We have the can't breathe deeply. So we can even say, even though I can't breathe, and we'll do it with the, physical feelings. And then I love and accept myself completely. And, or whatever, I choose to know I'm safe right now. Sometimes with people, I love and I accept myself completely is a bit of a stretch right now. Especially it's, even though I yelled at my daughter, I love and, part of me is going, oh, you shouldn't love it. Yeah, but it gets there. So that is that setup phrase. So thanks for asking.
For those who are going to be following along later, you may speak to this, but I've found that you can soften these phrases. So if Jenny says, and I love and accept myself, you can say, and I'm open to the possibility of loving and accepting myself.
I love it. Yeah. Or I choose. I choose is very helpful as well. I choose to love and accept myself completely, or I'm open to it, or I give myself permission to. I love that phrase. I'll tell you why I love this phrase so much, Mars, because all our lives, and I think especially as music students, we wait for other people's permission.
Oh.
Yeah. So even, a freaking, audition, it's like, give me permission, please give me that job. It's so disempowering. And so saying, I give myself permission to feel good about myself right now is a real kind of, yay, I'm a grown up. I can do this.
Yeah, it's calling back one's power.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Empowering
There's so much
oneself.
power that we have that we give away due to our beliefs.
Yeah. When people talk about self-sabotage, so often there's a little bit of judgment in there of, oh, he's self-sabotaging, or she's, or I'm self-sabotaging.
It's your fault, yeah.
Yeah. And you're doing it on purpose, or you're somehow doing it to hurt yourself. This is one thing that Brad Yates, my first coach, used to say was self-sabotage is misguided self-love. And I do a lot of inner child work with people. It's a young part of you or part of your mind that feels, I'm taking care of myself somehow. I want to stay in, we call it a comfort zone, which is the most uncomfortable place in the world very often, but it's what we're used to. It's familiar. So empowering yourself to say, you know what, I'm fine. I am safe right now. And, I'm not 6 years old. I'm whatever I am, and I've got this, and I can trust myself not to do stupid things, sort of thing. And if I do, I can tap on them. So
I'm actually feeling really excited just to dive into
let's do it.
To the example.
So as I said, we're going to start on the side of the hand with this even though. And what happens is that I will say a phrase, and you'll repeat back, as you know, but I'm just saying this for clarity. And so if you want, try it with us. I think one of the best things about EFT, or the way to kind of get a feel for it, is to actually do it, tap along with us and get that feel and just see, are there any shifts? How do you feel before? How do you feel afterwards? Okay. And so it's starting on the side of the hand. That setup phrase we do 3 times. And then we start going around the points. So the first point we're going to use is the inside of the eyebrow. Either side, it doesn't matter, the inside edge of the eyebrow point. And we tap there with one hand. Sometimes you'll see people using both hands.
Does the speed matter? Like I'm going tap, 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 or the hardness doesn't matter?
Yeah, no. I think, especially as musicians, we have a good rhythm. We're going to be speaking, we do, and we're saying a sentence, sort of something like, I'm really nervous about this audition. Just let it flow, and different people, some people I see them tap really gently. I'm quite vigorous. I think it just depends on you, and it doesn't matter. Don't hurt yourself, obviously, and you won't. But, just remember, yeah, exactly, poke your finger in your eye. You're stimulating those points. So whatever feels right to you. But the truth is, it's energy. So just whatever feels good. And then we go to the side of the eye. So just kind of the temple, a little bit in maybe. So the side there, and we tap there. Then we're going to go under the eye. So right on the bone under the eye, below the pupil, and tap there. That's right. And then we'll go to under the nose. So between the top lip and the nose, right there. And it's interesting, as you're doing it, just to really feel Some points are more or less sensitive to different people. For me, this top lip one is kind of profound for me. I don't know how to explain, but it just feels they do have kind of connections with different emotions. For example, under the eye, the one on the bone, that's connected to what they call the stomach meridian. So this is all Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine. And so if you're feeling a lot of nerves in your stomach, for example, which is pretty standard, fear response, if you tap under there and just breathe and tap and imagine those nerves, just imagine them, don't even try to do anything with them, just tune in. You'll find that after a little while of tapping, things start to shift. Okay. So sometimes we're talking, but sometimes it's not appropriate to talk. I wouldn't be jabbering away right standing at the side before an audition, for example, but I might tap gently in the wings sort of thing. All right. Then we go under the nose, as I said. Then the cleft of the chin. So under the mouth in that, little hole there. Okay. And then we find the collarbone point, which is harder to describe. But if you go from the knot of your throat and then come out a little bit, find the clavicles, and right below each inside end of the clavicle is the dent. And that's what we call the collarbone point, right? So it's, in fact, just below the collarbone there. All right?
And since I've got my mic on, it's real close, can I just do it on one side?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of these, you sometimes see people using both hands, or you switch it up. It doesn't matter. It's not like yoga that you've got to get both sides. Then we go under the arm. So to find this point, if you put your hand under the, there, and at the base of that hand, it's kind of, so a little bit further down below the armpit. And you can sometimes feel a slightly sensitive point there. And if you find that, great, tap there, don't hurt yourself, but these points do have some sensitivity there as well. All right. And then the last one's the top of the head. So right on the top of the head in the middle. Again, you may feel a sensitive point and find that, and that's where you're tapping. All right. But basically what we do is we go round and round the points, we check in, we see how they're feeling.
And there's this subjective units of distress, 1 to 10, where you check in. How distressed are you about this thing? So maybe you're like, oh my God, I'm 9 out of 10. It's horrible. And you may not solve it today, but if you get down to a 6 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10, that's progress.
I like to think of everyone talks about 80-20, this, that, and the other. A kind of controversial, if you like, opinion. Certainly when I was growing up, the idea that nerves are necessary was very prevalent. That if you somehow weren't nervous, it showed you either didn't care, or you weren't trying, or you weren't invested enough or engaged enough. But I think most musicians, we all know that nerves are so detrimental when they're out of control. As a violinist, it's horrible. You play out of tune, you stiffen up, you fall off, your bow shakes like crazy. What do you do as a horn player?
Yeah, well, there's many things that happen. Shaking happens, vibrato, missing notes. We've got 17 millimeters of inner diameter, covers a 5-octave range. So a very small, any tremor or shake can get you off. One of the most absolute, devastatingly frustrating and embarrassing things that happens for a lot of horn players when they're nervous is a thing called the Valsalva maneuver. The Valsalva maneuver is a reflex in the body that is very useful in a few situations: lifting heavy weights, defecating, and childbirth. And
none of which you're going to be doing on stage.
None
probably.
of which you should be doing on stage. So if you imagine a very heavy stone statue and you're going to lift it up, and when you lift it, what's going to happen is you're going to go, right? You're going to lock. And what that does, that Valsalva maneuver, it pressurizes you from the inside. It pressurizes your intra-abdominal all the way up so that you don't collapse.
Okay.
It's good, and it's good for, if you're like really, sorry to be graphic, but if you're on the toilet, you're really pushing hard, trying to get out something constipated, right? That is the Valsalva maneuver. It's a
Well, I never
reflex.
knew that, Mars.
And the
Yeah.
Valsalva maneuver can get triggered. There's certain thresholds that you exceed that will just trigger the reflex. Like if you hit your knee and it kicks out. For horn players, we need to tongue to articulate and begin a note, and we go ta, right? Ta. And if you say for yourself ta right now, notice a little pressure builds up.
Ta. Yep.
Just a little pressure builds up.
Ta. Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens is that in a normal circumstance, that pressure will is fine. But if your anxiety is up, or if you have a low threshold for triggering the Valsalva maneuver, that ta, the right before the ta, will trigger a Valsalva, which will lock your tongue in place and lock your entire thoracic, your airflow from being released. And which means you cannot release the note. So it's like you try to play and your tongue just gets stuck right in the moment that you're trying to release the note.
Wow.
And nothing comes out. Nothing can come out.
That is interesting. I was playing a couple of weekends ago, playing a Schumann Fourth Symphony, and there was a lot of horn in it. And the horn was not great at in the sense that there were a few of these moments, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. I didn't talk to him about it, of course, but I wonder if that kind of thing was going on. They were
Oh,
kind of
for sure.
when they miss them, and you just think, oh, you missed it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good example of this would be the Firebird. And the Firebird solo, the Berceuse happens, the bassoon, yadi, 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 yadi. And this whole Berceuse, quiet. The horn player is just sitting there, right? Not playing, not warmed up, horns getting cold.
Getting
and
scaredy and
getting scared.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this magic moment, the strings come down, everything gets quiet, and it's about to be reborn with that to float out. And so you're trying to play it, and you're breathing, and as you're breathing in, you feel, a Valsalva maneuver is about to happen. And there's nothing you can do. And the knowing of it is for sure going to cause it. The more you know it, the more it's going to happen. And so then you're pulling in, and the first thing that might happen is just nothing comes out. The next thing that might come out is a release of air that's uncontrolled.
Yeah.
You might right? So I'm trying to play but instead I'm getting
It's almost like someone's stuttering, isn't it?
it's like a stutter,
Yeah.
except that it's caused by a physiological reflex that's happening that's so disempowering you have no control over the reflex.
Yeah. I work with she's not a horn player, but she's a top jazz saxophonist. And we worked on this idea of, when you're sitting with several bars rest or measures rest and waiting for that damn note, sort of, and so we tapped on, even though I'm so afraid of that high, I think it was an F sharp or something, whatever it was, I love and accept myself completely, and releasing all that tension around there. And this sounds like, absolutely you can tap on that, and then it's conditioning yourself so that when you're sitting there, obviously you can't sit and tap, but you can even sit and imagine tapping.
The even more insidious thing about it, once this happens, which for me it happened for the first time when I was in high school. I had a big offstage solo in a band piece, and I walked off stage, in the middle of the state competition, and the solo was about to happen, so I got up, walked off stage, all eyes on me, backstage. The band quiets down, and then in this moment of the offstage horn solo, the entire band is quiet, totally unaccompanied French horn solo that's supposed to be a prayer. And I went to play it, and I Valsalva'd, and it was the first time, and I didn't know what the heck that was.
Oh, no.
I just couldn't play. And then I just exploded on the prayer. And then I had to walk back on stage
Hi, everyone.
and resume my seat on the principal horn chair at state competition.
I sometimes say musicians, performers, actors and everything, we are some of the bravest people on the planet. Because I know it's not life or death, but to a part of us, it feels like life or death.
Yeah.
And so many of us have a high school or an earlier moment which stays with us and crops up at the most inconvenient times, and a part of us which says, we're not doing that again. It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
vulnerable. So what happens after you get that imprint, and then it just started to happen more and more for me in performance. And then I started to build an identity around it. And I wanted to solve it, right? So I'm going into the practice room trying to solve it. And then it's happening in the practice room as I explore. And I'm not solving it because I thought I would solve it mechanically, but actually it needs what? An energetic resolution, an emotional resolution. And so years went by that I wasn't able to do energetic resolution on it. It became a deep part of my identity. And so then it was a challenge every single time I picked up my horn just to get a note out
yeah,
using the
yeah,
tongue.
yeah, yeah,
So there's a huge, for me, there was a huge psycho-emotional complex that got built around this that luckily I feel I've unwound
yeah.
through a lot of work and therapy and bringing my horn to see a therapist and doing neuro-emotional technique and even tapping on it to some
Yeah,
extent.
if you'd known about tapping then, you could have cleared it so quickly and easily.
I
And
know.
then not built up the whole identity and everything.
Yeah.
But also the good news is you can go back. There's a thing which we call, you probably know about it because matrix re-imprinting, which is basically this idea that the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
Imagined.
So
Yeah.
you can even go back and rewrite that moment within and tap on it and clear the energy around it until, and kind of override that
Yeah.
until then, because when we think about memories, how imperfect memory is, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
so I've done a lot of work on that moment,
yeah,
that solo, and I
I
remember I
bet.
reached out a few years ago to the horn player who I was closest with in high
Yeah,
school band,
yeah.
and hadn't been in touch for years, and I reached out and I said, "Hey, do you remember that concert with that solo?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. You played so beautifully." I was like, "What? You don't remember me like having this horrible thing and being all ashamed?" She's like, "No, you sounded great."
Yeah. And I often say to my musician clients, and half the time people aren't actually listening. The other, or more than half
Yeah,
the time, the other musicians are too busy thinking about their own stuff going on, and the audience is thinking about what they're going to have for dinner after the concert. And I mean, yeah,
yeah,
but it affects us so much. It is traumatic,
right,
and it is,
right.
and as you say, we can then create a whole big thing about it, not deliberately, but as a protective mechanism.
Well, sorry for the interruption, but if you are a horn player and you struggle with high range, confidence, accuracy, consistency, or endurance, this is of interest to you. I am still running my program High Range Magic that has offered profound transformation to folks that want to unlock the high range and all of its benefits. There is a masterclass linked below that you can watch for free, 100% free, 3 Secrets of High Playing. After you watch the masterclass, you'll have an option to book a no-cost one-on-one consult with me if you're interested in finding out more about the program. That's all for now. Back to the episode. So let's do this. I invite anybody listening who's ever experienced a hesitant attack or who is struggling with it to think about your history, what your original experience was, and just connect with me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right now shamanically take on all hesitant attacks for all brass players. I am all brass players in this moment.
Going inside with everyone as well, so that
Yes.
and you connect with that as well. That'd be great. All right.
Yes.
And then you're going to have to do a little bit of explaining to me what this, so that I know what words to use. All right. So just take a moment, if that feels all right. Just even close your eyes and just take a deep breath in. and just maybe even get a little bit grounded. So feeling your feet on the floor, feeling where you're connecting with whatever surface you're on, and just allowing yourself to follow your breath through your body. And just thinking into that moment, maybe when this hesitant attack has happened to you, if it's happened more than once, which is very possible, pick one which is especially painful or new, or really you can still feel that what was going on, and just become aware of any feelings in your body as you connect with that, and also any emotions that come up. The emotions right in that moment, which I imagine are kind of panic, or maybe there's shame, maybe there's distress, helplessness, all of those. Just connect and really feel those in your body as well. So sometimes fear we feel in our gut or in our heart or our chest, wherever you're feeling things. And just allow yourself, as we talked about, to rate that on a scale. We use a scale very often of 1 to 10. So 1 is just nothing there at all, or practically nothing. 10 is very acute. And how much is still connected to that? And don't be afraid that we're going to make it worse. We're connecting with this, with the idea of clearing it, kind of for once and for all. So whatever comes up for you, becoming really aware, and whenever you're ready, just opening your eyes. And Mars, give me a little bit about, and you're tuning into what it feels like. As a violinist, I have no idea, so it's your job to tell me, what comes up.
Yeah, I'm on stage. In my memory, I'm in the super final round of the Los Angeles Philharmonic audition. It was 2012 for me. Made it to super finals.
Wow.
And the excerpt was the Fidelio second horn, which starts with a peaceful, gentle, written C-sharp 5 in the staff, easy note, unless you struggle with hesitant attacks. And this felt like my make or break moment right here, because I knew if I hesitate and I botch this, I'm going to lose the audition. And if I can get it, I could win. So there's a lot of pressure, and there's just the knowing I can't get this note out right now. There's no way I can get this note out cleanly. There's no way I can't begin this note in a clean fashion. And there's just anguish and torment, and it's really deeply distressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And often, we laugh, but under that laugh, there is so much, as you say,
Oh
anguish.
yeah, that was a laugh cry for sure.
Yeah. Anguish, torment, shame. I've thrown my whole freaking career away practically. There's so much riding on it.
The frustration of raging against this, trying to solve it, going all over the world trying to solve it. All over the world. I spent
so let's put your emotions at a 10. All right, Mars, in that moment.
In that moment, absolutely, that was a 10.
Yeah. And did it all unfold as you feared?
Oh yeah, I botched it, and the audition was over.
Yeah. And when you think about it now, and I know you've done a lot of work on probably even that particular, how do you feel about it now? Can you still capture some of those feelings?
Yeah, I mean, it still lives in my body.
Okay.
And I could tell that my body wanted to cry a little bit as I was remembering it, so that there's still some charge there.
Yeah.
I mostly, globally, I feel compassionate towards
Good,
that moment.
But because you've done a lot of work on that, because someone who hasn't done a work can feel so angry with oneself. I let myself down. Why couldn't I get past this? What if I had, and all of this. So,
I experienced such intense self-loathing. I wanted to die. And actually, shortly after the audition, my body went into shutdown and I was hospitalized for 5 days.
Good grief. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Right. Let's do a tapping round on this. I want, everyone who's listening or watching, if it's, tap with us, think of your own moment. Now, one thing I think it's important to say is that you won't take on, Mars is saying, I wanted to die. Now, if I say those words, I wanted to die, as we're tapping, it doesn't mean you'll suddenly become suicidal if you never were or anything. Okay, so please, I want everyone to understand that it's take care of yourself. If you're in a very vulnerable place right now, maybe leave this till you know that there's someone around who, because sometimes emotions do come up, all right? But probably if you feel, okay, I can handle this, just keep tapping. Keep tapping. If an emotion comes up, that's great. It's emotional freedom technique. So we are allowing emotions to come and go. Okay. And so the idea is that it's a little bit, I see it like a toddler. They have a tantrum. They go crazy, and then 5 minutes or 10 minutes later, they're just happily playing, leaving their parents going, whoa, what happened, sort of thing. Or, or they scream and cry a baby, and then they're fine. So they let the emotions, it's emotions, once we actually feel them, they do move through. Okay? Okay.
Add for somebody that aftercare is a wonderful concept. And if you are feeling vulnerable about this, knowing that you can go get a hug, afterwards, find someone to co-regulate with is often a lovely strategy to integrate, whether or not you feel, maybe you feel completely equipped to go into this. But even so, thinking perhaps after this I'll get a hug, co-regulate, go into nature is a good idea.
Yeah, take care of yourself, yeah. But that said, we can, mostly it's absolutely fine. We've felt these things before. We just, we're dealing with it. All right, so here we go.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to move into the applied portion of this podcast where you're going to want to participate and follow along. And that's going to require seeing the points that we tap on our body. So you're going to want to load up the video version of this podcast. If you're not able to do that in the current listening platform that you're on, there will be a link in the show notes to go to YouTube and watch it there. And the link's going to take you straight to this portion again. And you are definitely going to want to do this and not miss out on a chance to work with your own nervous system, your own body, and these imprints so that you can clear them out and empower yourself. So go ahead and find that video version of this podcast and let's get started.
Okay, even though I botched that note.
Even though I botched that note.
I love and accept myself completely.
I love and accept myself completely.
Even though I knew I was going to.
Even though I knew I was going to.
And sure enough, I made a complete botch of it.
And sure enough, I made a complete botch of it.
I love and honor myself completely.
I love and honor myself completely.
Even though I botched that note.
Even though I botched that note.
That hesitant attack.
That hesitant attack.
Took over.
It took over.
I had no control in that moment.
I had no control in that moment.
And it's a terrifying moment.
And it's a terrifying moment.
It's already terrifying being in an audition.
It's already terrifying being in an audition, yeah.
But suddenly losing control of your technique, faculties, whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Losing control of my technique and my ability to play the horn.
Thank you. Yeah, and even though I botched it.
Even though I botched it.
I deeply and completely. Love, honor, and accept myself right now.
Love, honor, and accept myself right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I botched that note.
I botched that note.
I just couldn't play it.
I couldn't play it at all, yeah.
Nothing was happening.
Nothing was happening.
I couldn't will myself to to get that note.
I couldn't will myself to get it right.
And I can still feel all that fear.
And I could still feel all of the fear and anguish.
All of the tension.
All the tension.
Building up inside of me.
Building up inside of me.
Because I just knew.
Because I just knew.
This is a make or break moment.
This is a make or break moment.
No pressure then.
Yeah, no pressure.
It's just my entire career.
Just my entire career was riding on it, yeah.
And my reputation.
And my reputation.
There is so much riding on this.
There's so much riding on it.
Forget being detached.
Forget being detached.
I was so attached to that outcome.
I was so attached to that outcome.
And all that pressure I felt.
And all that pressure I felt.
And sure enough, I screwed up.
Sure enough, I screwed up.
There was no way I could get that note out.
There was no way I could get that note out right.
And all that anguish.
And all that anguish.
All that torment.
All that torment.
All that frustration I felt.
All that frustration I felt.
Because it's just not fair.
Because it's just not fair.
I worked so hard for this.
I did work so hard for that.
And everything was riding on this.
And everything was riding on that. Just playing a single note. Ah!
Thank you. And I let myself down.
And I let myself down.
And I was so angry with myself.
Oh, I was so angry.
And I was so upset.
I was so upset. I betrayed myself.
Yeah.
It felt like a betrayal.
Yeah. All that feeling that I'd sabotaged myself in that moment.
All that feeling that I'd sabotage myself in that moment.
Maybe someone even suggested.
Maybe even someone suggested.
Maybe you didn't really want it.
Oh, no, nobody suggested that.
No. All right, good. I really wanted that.
I really wanted that.
I felt like crying.
Yeah, I felt like crying.
And it still lives on a little in my body.
It still lives on a little bit in my body.
And I choose to clear it.
I choose to clear it.
Clear it at a cellular level.
I choose to clear it at a cellular level.
Imagining every cell in my body.
I'm imagining every cell in my body.
Letting go of that anguish.
Letting go of that anguish.
Letting go of that torment.
The torment, the horror.
It's safe to let it go now.
It's safe to let it go now.
A part of me has kept that memory.
A part of me has kept that memory.
As a way of keeping myself safe.
As a way of keeping myself safe.
But it kind of went over the top.
But it kind of went over the top.
It's not useful any longer.
It's not useful any longer.
And I choose to forgive myself.
And I choose to forgive myself.
On every level.
On every level.
I'm forgiving my body.
I forgive my body.
I'm forgiving my mind.
I forgive my mind.
I'm forgiving my nervous system.
I forgive my nervous system.
It was really doing the best it could.
It was really doing the best that it could in that moment.
I wish it could have done better.
I wish it could have done better.
But it happened.
But it happened.
And I choose to heal.
And I choose to heal.
Healing that memory.
Healing that memory.
All the trauma in that moment.
All the trauma in that moment.
Everything I made it mean.
Everything I made it mean. Oh. Oh.
Everything I felt that I'd lost out on.
Everything I felt that
Yeah. All that grief I went through.
All that grief I went through.
I'm letting it go.
I'm letting it go.
I'm not done yet.
I'm not done yet.
And I'm releasing this hesitant attack.
I'm releasing these hesitant attacks.
I don't need them to keep me safe.
I don't need them to keep me safe.
I'm allowed to release those muscles.
I'm allowed to release those muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give myself permission to relax.
I give myself permission to relax when I'm beginning notes.
Yeah, really. Yeah, yeah. It's safe to relax.
It's safe to relax.
A part of me says,
A part of me says,
no, we have to tense up.
no, we got to tense up. We got to manage this articulation. We got to get it right. Hang on. You're gonna...
We've got to get this baby out of ourselves.
We got to get this baby out.
I'm allowing myself to go with the flow.
Now I'm allowing myself to go with the flow, even if it means missing a note.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Take a moment. All right.
Yeah.
You know, basically what we're doing is going round the points. Okay, so take a moment and do this, Mars, and then everyone who hopefully you were tapping with us, and just look at that or revisit, if you like, that moment,
Yeah.
and see if anything's shifted. And very often people say to me, well, it feels like I'm a little bit more removed. It's maybe like watching a movie, or, you know, I don't get the same kind of visceral, if you like, reaction as I think of that. I can forgive myself maybe a little more.
Yeah,
What goes on for you?
I just feel so much love and warmth and compassion for that version of me. It was so terrifying, and
Yeah, yeah,
I don't feel the terror in this moment. I just feel,
Good.
yeah, like I'm not him,
yeah, yeah.
but I see him, and I care so much.
This is really helpful to do after tapping as well, especially when we're tapping on things at different times, like in the past, all right? Imagine that moment. For you, it's the LA Phil audition. For people listening, it's whatever moment you had. And I want you to, wherever you're sitting now, imagine, okay, where in the world is that? And I want you to point to it. This is very random. Okay, so if it's a moment, okay, so over there, over wherever, for me, I'm thinking of a moment of, screwing up big time. It was over there, okay?
Okay, yeah, it's
All
in
right,
front of me to the right.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you're pointing to wherever in kind of space and time it was. And I want you to say, that was then.
That was then.
And now bring your hand back to your heart and place both your hands over your heart. Just be in your body and say, this is now.
This is now.
And we're going to do that 3 more times.
Yeah.
Point, that was then.
That was then.
And feel the distance,
that was then.
Yeah. This is now. Bring your hand back.
This is now.
This is now.
Yeah.
Once again, that was then.
That was then.
This is now.
This is now.
And just take a deep breath and allow yourself to be now, here and now.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a nice way to kind of finish it off and say, it's still a part of you, your history and everything, but it doesn't have to affect you in the same way.
Can I check something, Jenny?
Yes, please.
I would like to play that first note of Fidelio and see how it feels. So even as I bring my horn, I notice a little bit of like a little tightness in my gut coming up.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, is it going to work?
Yeah, of course, you've got to prove yourself now, Mars.
Right.
Well, I love the expression, which I'm sure you know, what you resist persists. So usually, we think about, for me, bouncing bow, and we try and we tense up against it. So just allow that. Just say, oh, that's interesting. There's a bit of tightness
if it hesitates, just be like, let it hesitate.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's okay.
So try the note and just let it hesitate. If it hesitates, be okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Go
Let's
for
try
it.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. You could even try to make it hesitate.
Yeah. Okay. I got a little bit of a Valsalva there.
That was a little, was it? That first thing. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Play again.
Yep.
Was that the same?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I would do now is just let's go around the points. Say that happened.
that hesitation, that Valsalva, that hesitation happened.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. It may happen again.
It may happen again.
A part of me wants it to never happen again.
Part of me wants it to never happen again. Yeah.
It shouldn't happen again.
It shouldn't happen again.
I don't want it to happen again.
I don't want it to happen again.
Chances are it'll happen again.
Chances are it might happen again. Yeah.
A part of me
Yeah.
doesn't want to say that
But yeah, part of me doesn't want to say that for sure.
because it feels like I'm willing it to happen.
Yeah, because it feels like I'm willing it to happen. Yeah.
But the fact is,
But the fact is,
it does happen.
it does happen. Yeah.
It happens for lots of horn players.
It happens for lots of horn players, lots of brass players. Yeah.
And just so people know, we're tapping around the points as we're saying this. And when it happens to other people,
And when it happens to other people,
I'm much less judgmental.
oh yeah, I totally understand when it happens for others. Yeah.
I feel a lot of compassion,
I feel a lot of compassion.
also kind of relieved.
Yeah, kind of relieved.
I'm not the only one that this happens
Yeah,
to.
I'm not the only one it happens to.
So chances are it will happen.
So chances are it will happen. Yeah.
I'm letting go of my expectations of perfection
I'm letting go of my expectations of perfection
because they really get in my way of enjoying myself.
because they really get in the way of me enjoying myself.
They really get in the way.
They really get in the way of me enjoying myself
Yeah. And I'm feeling in the flow and relaxed.
and feeling in the flow and relaxed.
And maybe I can even be in the flow
Maybe I could even be in the flow
and still have a freaking hesitant
and
attack.
still have a hesitation or valsalva every now and then.
Yeah. I choose to maintain the energy.
I choose to maintain the energy.
If I hold that energetic bubble,
If I hold that energetic bubble, what energetic bubble?
okay, let me talk about this because this is important. I'll illustrate it with this. I used to, back in the day, have a lot of violin students, like all ages, from 4 to 80 and the rest, and adults. One thing used to drive me insane with the children. Okay, quite a lot of things did, but anyway, this was when we were performing. They would, put their violin up, go, and we get through Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And then at the end, they'd just drop their violin immediately. And I said, no. When we're performing, there is an energetic bubble that we can create all round it.
Yes.
And if we very deliberately say, right, it's like a capsule.
Yes.
I'm maintaining that energy, because one thing is to say I'm going to stay confident, but something happens and our confidence goes whoa, but if we do it on an energetic level, even if there are slight hesitations or a note out of tune or something,
Yes.
it's barely noticeable.
That's
because
right.
you're not interrupting the energetic flow, and that's what the audience are hearing. That's what even your colleagues, you said this colleague of yours didn't even notice it. She was on her own planet, sort of thing. So also doing it on an energetic level is really helpful.
That is the most useful and clear description of what some might call staying in flow in performance. But it's not really staying in flow, because flow is something different. So I love the way that you described it as being inside the performer's bubble.
Right. Yes.
Keeping that in integrity, regardless of whether errors or scrapes happen.
Well, you see performers do this all the time, but you can do it very deliberately. So you can, and then it doesn't throw you off when something like this happens. It's okay. It's just a part of what was meant to happen in that moment.
And that's the thing about, I was trying to play that C-sharp 5 for Fidelio, is that just a moment ago, I wasn't in the bubble in that moment.
Okay.
I was in the bubble of, I want to see if this works.
Does this work? Yeah. How do you feel now when okay, let's take a moment. Let's imagine you on stage. We're going to imagine the performance now. All right, you're waiting to play. You know that's notes coming, but it's kind of in a larger context, because now you're in an energy bubble. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. And even the movement of putting your horn up to your mouth, is also part of that energetic thing.
Yes.
All right. So
Yes.
just try and, well, or just give it a try and see. This is kind of playing. I've never done this before, Mars. So this
Yeah,
is,
this is
yeah.
cool.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
So what was cool is that I did not hesitate.
There wasn't the
I
silence.
there
Yeah.
wasn't the silence or the valsalva didn't happen. I did chip the
Mm-hmm.
note,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that that came from some anxiety, some kind of like distortion inside of me was why I missed the note.
That certainly, yeah, in an audition, and this is the problem with auditions, of course, and let's not kid ourselves, that kind of thing matters in an audition. In a performance,
Mm,
it doesn't matter. Most
mm.
people in the audience haven't a clue what you're meant to be playing,
I
you
think
know?
that's the place where I'm still not intellectually I understand, but sort of emotionally, I'm like, wait, no, 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 no. It does matter. Like if that's the Firebird solo and I missed that first note, like that really does matter, and that's really not okay.
You're a piece of scum on the earth, basically, Mars.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I've ruined this magical moment.
Okay. And that is when the energy bubble gets burst.
Right, right.
Whereas if you just say, okay, I'm flowing on, my job is to see it to the end of this piece and everything. Change your job, you know. What
Mm-hmm.
is my job? It's to create a magical moment for my listeners.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard brilliant performers who make the odd mistake, and we forgive them because they're brilliant,
Yeah,
because they create emotions, but we don't forgive ourselves in the same
yeah.
way. This may be my opinion, and people go, nope, can't accept that. But play with it.
That's fascinating. We'll have to do a follow-up if enough audience members listeners want, we could do a follow-up tapping video for some of the other aspects like that anxiety of like if I miss the note. Because we weren't working on accuracy today. We weren't
No.
working on getting the correct note. We were
Mm,
working on hesitating, having a
mm,
Valsalva,
mm, mm,
which I did
mm,
not have
mm.
in that moment when I held the
Yeah,
bubble. So
cool.
I'm calling
Thank
this
you.
a
Yes, that's
win.
good point. Good. Well done.
We've got about 10 minutes,
Brilliant.
unfortunately, to
Yeah.
wrap. I'm curious if there's anything that you feel you'd like to share at this moment with our listeners.
I think for me, the most important message that from EFT, and it's one thing that I just love about it so much is this idea of loving and accepting ourselves, even though we're human, even though we do make mistakes at the most unfortunate times. And you know, surprise, our nervous system's in a mess, you know. So being able to love and
Mm,
forgive ourselves
mm, mm.
for being human, and then tap on, my nervous system. I'm in fight or flight right now. And I say it 20 times a day, because I work with other people. And just even if you never tap again, but you just say to yourself, even though every time something negative comes up, say, even though
Mm,
blah, 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 I love and accept myself completely. At the
mm.
beginning, it won't feel true, but you get to the point where you're, oh, good. Okay. I can let that go.
So it sounds like you mentioned the 80/20. It sounds like the
Yeah.
80/20 for folks that are new to this that just want to try it for themselves would be have a setup phrase, do the karate chop thing, and then what? Just tap through the points and kind of,
This idea that 80% of nerves is devastating. It just messes us up. But 20% of nerves is okay. We can handle it. So it's like
yeah.
I'm at an 8 on this SUDS scale, and then I'm coming down to a 2. If you wanted to try tapping on your own, is say, and let's try doing this, Mars. I want,
I want.
just say something. I want anything.
I want a recording studio in the jungle with double pane glass overlooking the jungle.
Okay, brilliant. But
But I
Fill in
don't
this.
have the money to pay to construct that.
Okay, so that's where you start tapping. Even though I don't have the money to pay to construct that, I love and accept
Mm.
myself completely. And so that is immediate a limiting belief. I mean, it may have lots of evidence, all right, but you can
Oh,
then
yeah.
start sort of saying, and a part of me believes I'll never get the money. Oh dear, I realize,
Uh-huh.
and why should I? Who am I to, all these things come out. So you start to listen to your thoughts. And this is the thing I think as musicians, oh my God, our thoughts run rampant. And so,
Yeah.
it's a bit like, yeah, meditating or something. You start to hear those thoughts. And at the beginning, when you begin to meditate, you go, oh my God, I'm
Right.
crazy. I can't. But it's been there all along, but you were never aware of it. And EFT is a
Yeah.
very good one for becoming aware. What are the things I say to myself?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so useless. You're never going to get that note. Everyone else deserves to get this, not you. All these
Mm.
horrible things we say to ourselves. The loving and accepting, even though you're human, even though you did mess up that note. I like to think of it as, okay, that was meant to be on some level. So nothing went actually wrong. It was just part of my life path.
I want to make sure people know how to find you and what your offers are if they're touched by this and want to work with you directly. What's your offerings? How do people find you?
Instagram, Jenny Clift Coach. I'm on Facebook. My website is A Better Life Tapping, but if you put Jenny Clift EFT for musicians, I show up. I love to do what I call a tapping discovery call with people, a free call.
Mm.
And, I did one with you, Mars, and it's just basic. We get together and we do a bit of tapping together, so you get a feel for it directly, and then from there I work one to one. I work with groups, and so then it's talking about how could this look for you. So that's probably what I would say.
Well, this has been a very potent podcast for me. I'm not sure I've ever felt so many emotions on a podcast
Yes,
before.
that's
uh,
emotional freedom for you.
yeah.
How are you feeling
And
now, though, Mars?
I feel good. Yeah.
Good. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
I feel great.
mm.
And yeah, just very inspired by your work. The discovery session that we had obviously was so
Yeah,
powerful that I
thank you.
wanted to bring you on the podcast,
Mm, mm.
and highly recommend your services to
Thank
those
you.
who want to make some deeper
And
changes.
I would like to add one thing that I have. Oh, as well, I do have a YouTube channel. So I have, for example, an audition. I have a lot of stuff there for
Mm,
EFT videos for musicians. And I have written, it just came out in January, a book called Thriving Artist, which is
wow.
how to use EFT for musicians. And in there are a lot of scripts. So, for example, there's script about auditions and rejection
Mm,
and different things like that. So that is another resource that's out there. That's on Amazon. So, yeah, as well.
amazing. Wow,
Mm,
thank you so much for your contribution to the world of music. It's so important.
yeah, and more
Uh,
people are learning about this. It's becoming more mainstream. So that's very cool.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
All right, Jenny,
Thank
thanks
you,
for coming on
Mars.
the podcast. It was so
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, I'm really grateful.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast. This episode is brought to you by High Range Magic, my online program that helps horn players liberate their high range as well as reach new levels of relaxation and ease throughout the full range of the horn, and also to kind of reclaim a beautiful new paradigm of relationship and mindset with the instrument. If that sounds interesting to you, head over to highrangemagic.com and you can register to watch the free masterclass I have, How to Confidently Enjoy a 4 Plus Octave Range Without Pain, Overthinking, or Constantly Practicing. That's over at highrangemagic.com. Thanks again.